We're at the Huhugam Heritage Center as a cultural center for the Gila River Indian community. So, Skugdam Jug, Shapamasma, Panjigig Leland Thomas, Anya Nudahukam Tono Atum Chakramatam, Anya Tik, Huhugam Heritage Center.
How we doing, everyone? This is Dr. B. I have an awesome video for you today. When I was out in Arizona for the 2024 Mulchitha Fair and Rodeo, I was able to visit the Akimel Heritage Center, and Leland Thomas, he's one of the curators there. He showed me around and I learned so much about Atham culture, and if you watch this episode, you're going to learn a lot as well. This was really an incredible experience, and I just want to say thank you to the Akimel Atham community for sharing their culture. The Mulchitha Fair, Rodeo, Car Show was amazing, but my trip to the Heritage Center was definitely one of the highlights to my trip out in Arizona. Also, if you live in Arizona or if you're ever visiting the state, you definitely got to check out the Akimel Atham Heritage Center. Like I said, it's an incredible experience. So let's jump right in.
Good afternoon. My name is Leland Thomas. I am half Tono Atum and half Akimel Atham. I am the assistant curator and exhibit projects manager here at the Huhugam Heritage Center. And the Heritage Center is a cultural center for the Gila River Indian community.
Can you tell us a little bit about the different Atham communities? There's 4, right?
Yeah, there's 4 reservations, or federally recognized reservations, which is the Tono Atham Nation, which is the southern part of Arizona, the Akchin Indian community, which is just south of us, about 15 miles, and then the Gila River Indian community, and then the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, which is north of us.
Excellent.
All same people, just different differences in dialects, but same background, same history, and only separated by governmental boundaries.
Beautiful, beautiful. And for the Akimel community, Gila River, there's 7 districts?
Yeah, there's 7 districts within the Gila River Indian community, districts 1 through 7, 7 being the Maricopa Colony. Because the community is comprised of two different tribes. One is the Peeposh, which is the Maricopa, which came from the Colorado River, and then the Akimel Atham, which is the Pima.
Nice. And what district are you from, your family?
My family, so my mother, on my mother's side, she comes from District 1. Her mother also from District 1, and my grandfather's from District 5.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I'm going to let you show us around. You can tell us a little bit about the cultural center and maybe some highlights of what we have here.
Sure. We're in our main gallery here at the Huhugam Heritage Center, and our main gallery is comprised of all the history of the community. We have several cases with different objects and artifacts that showcase what the history of the community was once. So we also have within our casework prehistoric objects, such as this vessel here, which is a vessel that was found in Snaketown, which is a prehistoric an archaeological site here within the community. One of the biggest, and which is a storage jar. We kind of wanted to show the continuation between the style of pottery, the method, and the material to our modern day historical pots. And even today, all the way to the modernization of what we utilize and what we use our pottery.
So Snaketown is a pretty important archaeological area, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. How old is Snaketown? Do you know the dates of it?
The dates of Snaketown probably start about, our oldest vessel actually that we had from there is about 300 AD, all the way to 1450.
Yeah.
So huge occupancy, many years of living there.
In this case right here, we have the basketry. Obviously, your community is really well known for the basketry. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, the Akimel Atham are really known for their weaving style and their baskets. These are willow baskets. A lot of them were huge, were very utilitarian. In historic times, they were used for gathering, used for storage, utilized just for about everything and anything. And so the materials of these baskets are Gooding's willow, uh, devil's claw, which is the black within the basket, the mix of the design, and cattails. All water plants, and so these are water holders. They're very tightly woven, and when
So these can hold water. They're woven
yes.
so tight that they can hold and store water.
Yes,
Incredible.
because the plants they swell, they'll swell with the water,
Okay.
closing up any holes within the basket itself. This case just has a showcase of different types of baskets with different designs. Again, like I said, our baskets used to be very huge for utilitarian use. More the early 1900s, to the 1920s, everything kind of switched over to more of an artistic value. So you have a lot of the miniatures, still composed of all of the basket designs that were utilized back then, but also some that are original, and by the weaver's discretion.
Okay. So traditionally, is it the women who would do most of the weaving
Yes.
for the baskets? Has that changed at all today? Do you see men who are involved in weaving?
Yes. A lot of it has evolved. Like a lot of things within history, within people, within crafts, they've evolved and more equalized, I should say.
Yeah.
For both men and women. We do have a weaver that's on staff who still weaves willow, this type of weaving, and still maintains the traditional craft as well. There's other types of weaving, like with different materials as well, that have other weavers have picked up. But this is our main style of the acrodomodum.
Man, beautiful. So I was reading a little bit about your water rights struggles that go back like 100 years.
Yeah.
Do you know a little bit about that history? Can you share some of it?
Definitely. So early on, and that was one of the things that
Go for a walk too, if you want. Yeah.
was a struggle for the community. So we are the Akimel, which is river people. So our sustaining life vein was the river. The river no longer flows within the riverbed itself. It still does flow within the community just through its canals because it's been diverted. Back in 2004, the Hill River Indian community won its lawsuit with the federal government for the water rights.
And that goes back like 100 years struggle.
Yes. A lot of our leaders back in the early 1900s won by horseback to DC to fight for the water rights of the people.
Wow.
To show that we were using the water, but because it was being diverted upstream, it took away a lot of the life. It took away the life way of the community. So the community went into hunger, starvation, lost a lot of its agriculture.
And the agricultural history is really significant for your people, correct?
Yes. Yes, that was another sustainability for the community, was growing its food.
And I know that you all were really well known for the canal building and diverting water for your crops. I mean, pretty innovative and very, very creative, right?
Yeah, definitely. From prehistoric times to historic and even to now, we utilize the lay of the land. They understood how the land flowed and how it went, and in order to take the water off of the river to make it go into the canal systems and then also back to the river.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the agricultural system, the different crops of your people?
Yeah, so traditionally they grew corn, squash, beans, and cotton. Cotton was a big staple for the community because they wove blankets, mats as well. And so in one of our cases, we do have some cotton weaving and a loom.
So this is a loom, traditional loom right here.
Yes, that was collected in the 1850s. And and we brought it back, and it's on loan from us from the Smithsonian. And so this is also a blanket that was completed, and also is on loan from us from the Smithsonian as well, collected from the community. But these are two type of crafts that were done from the cotton, from its harvesting it to preparing it to weaving with it. It's something that isn't done today, but it's something that we used to do. So I was able to make our own blankets, make material for clothing. And so it was a huge staple for us.
And I think that's one innovation a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of Native communities grew cotton.
Yeah.
And most people don't think of Native Americans and growing cotton, right?
Right.
Yeah, really, really cool. And also, obviously, pottery is, very significant to the community as well. And this pottery is amazing.
Definitely. So, like I said, we're two cultures, the Peeposh and the Akimel. Peeposh are really well known for their pottery and their designs. And so the clay is gathered locally. They're made with no wheel. It's all paddle and anvil method. But the Akimel also did made pots as well. Same style of method used to create them, to go gather the clay. Designs varied between both cultures, and sometimes they meshed, and so they overlapped. The Peeposh are really well known for like the long necks vases, and then the double necks as well.
Really cool.
And again, just like the baskets, a lot of the pottery was very utilitarian until like the early 1900s, when everything became more of an artistic value.
Yeah. So obviously water is, really important, right, to people who live in an area where it's not quite as abundant. But within your culture, water is super significant. Can you tell us a little bit more about the relationship and the land, water, and just the different elements?
Definitely. So like I said, the water was a lifeline for the community. It flowed and gave life to everything. It's also a taker of life. So we know that with the damming of the water, it took away a lot of things, a lot of the ecosystem, a lot of the environment, a lot of the plants. Within the river system itself, that we know there was fish that were thriving in the river, which also gave food to the community. But also there was plants that were growing along the banks of the river, and which also gave nourishment to the community as well, but also to the animals. We had a huge array of birds and mammals that were in the area, but are no longer here because the river no longer flows in its natural bed. So it stripped away a lot of that for the community, and so they had to rely on other means. And so a lot of that damming of the river depleted a lot of the aquifers here, a lot of the groundwater, and so it became a struggle historically. But as you can see today, we're still thriving. We're persistent. We're still going forward. We've adapted.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about the population size of the Gila River Nation?
I can't give you an exact number, but I want to say it's a little over maybe 24,000
Oh gosh, yeah.
enrolled tribal members, but they live on and off the community.
Yeah.
And so we're still thriving.
Yeah. So this is not a small reservation. We're talking about a very large reservation, and the different districts are kind of like counties, I guess you can say, right?
Yeah, within our own riverbed, within our own reservation. Yes, we've also grown from its original boundaries. We were one of the very few reservations that grew. A lot of reservations shrunk, but our original boundary in 1857 was kind of just along the river itself. Through various executive orders, the community grew.
That's what we want to see.
That's
what we want to see. Absolutely. Obviously, WAA music and chicken scratch is a big part of the culture out here. maybe a little bit more contemporary. Can you tell us anything about WAA and Chicken Scratch? And I see some instruments in this corner of the museum, and I know that this weekend at the Molchita Fair, there's going to be a WAA Chicken Scratch Battle of the Bands.
Yeah, so it's more of a contemporary side of music. Was influenced a lot by the Spanish when they came in contact with the community. They introduced a lot of the different instruments. So mainly before it was just more like the fiddle, a guitar, and a snare drum. Kind of what started it all. And then again, like everything evolves
Right.
and progresses. You have a lot of the wider bands that you see today. A lot of them taking understanding where it came from and that music style, and still having that same style, but just adding their own little twist to it, their own little flavors to make it.
So it's
their
like
own.
an indigenous interpretation of like cumbia, norteño music.
Yeah, and German, because it's
In
also
German,
polka.
yeah, and polka as well. Yeah, yeah, it's really fascinating to me, and you know, I've seen just a few of the videos. I'm looking forward to you know, checking out some of the bands. But how everybody gets out there and dances, and everybody kind of has their own dance style. It's really incredible. Really,
Definitely.
really is. Yeah.
But traditionally, our music and our instruments are what's behind you. We have a gourd rattle, we have rasps, we have a basket drum, and a cane flute. And again, also with all of this historic and modern musical instruments, we put in some prehistoric potsherds, showing the utilization of the dancing and the music playing. Again, to show the continuation from the prehistory to now.
Beautiful. And I know that you do have a famous musician that comes from the community.
Yes.
Can we maybe talk a little bit about him as well?
Yeah, Russell Moore, a famous jazz player, toured all around the U.S. and even in Paris. He was from the west end of the community. He played his trombone. This is actually his actual trombone.
This is his actual instrument that he
Yes.
used.
Was a really good jazz player. Was on various shows. Played along with Louis Armstrong.
Incredible.
Was really well known with him and his family. Is also in the Louis Armstrong Museum as well. Did a lot of shows with him, and then went on kind of his solo career, and then played a lot of venues in Paris. That's where this photo comes from, and really well known. His story is really one we like to share with the community, because it's kind of like reaching for the stars. A young boy growing up on a reservation who really wanted to get out and see what was out there. There's an oral history about him, that what he did and where he went to, and how he kind of just jumped on this boat or this train and rode it to the end.
It's an incredible story. I mean, to come from out here, Gila River, go to Chicago, and then to be playing with Louis Armstrong. I mean, it's
Definitely.
really amazing. And obviously, he was a great musician. The trombone is a pretty incredible instrument. And yeah, when I heard about him, I just did a little bit of homework, and I was just like, wow, the story is pretty amazing.
Definitely. It's also kind of eye-opening to the community, especially to the younger generation that reach for the stars.
Yeah, and that's what we
Set
want.
set your heart on something and strive for it.
Yeah. So obviously, music is a big part of the community. Going way back, music in all communities, really, right? Music
Yeah.
is a big part of all cultures. So, what can you tell us a little bit about, say, some of the more traditional ceremonies, dances, and songs that exist out here?
Well, with those, also like we utilize the instruments that you saw before, traditional music and singing. And the quote from this elder who passed really kind of says it all. And he says, when one begins to learn a song and understands what is being sung, it creates an ultimate high, and the one singing will experience what the song is about. They become the bird, the animal, and with the mind's eye can see and feel the importance of the song. One of the things that I think that we're always told by our elders is when singing for the right reason at the right time in the right mind and with the right heart, a song can be very powerful. Like any faith,
Yeah.
you believe in it, it has a lot of strength. And so that's what our songs were. We sang just about everything and anything, from the morning to the night to all the elements, the rain, the animals, the land, and even the cosmos. So we had a song for just about everything and anything that can be sung for.
Yeah. So the songs, the dances, the ceremonies connect the people to their land, right? To the elements, to all the different plant life, the animal life, and then also the entire universe.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Creating that whole circle that we're all connected
Yeah.
in one way or another.
Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. Absolutely. So what do we have up here, up top?
So everything on the bottom, the first level of this gallery is like all the history of the community. On our mezzanine level, it's all the contact.
Oh, okay.
And so when all the encroachment to the community, it kind of tells this part of their story. So we start off coming up on the mezzanine level. We came up through the elevator. Is our calendar sticks, and these two calendar sticks are these two gentlemen. And calendar sticks were a way to share with the community, with the family, things that happen, major events, but also in the calendar holder's mind, it could open up little memories of what also happened during that year. So Joseph Head's calendar stick starts in 1833 and runs to 1921. And actually, both of them run that same length. But it also lets us know that it's not just anything local, because they were noting things that happen like geologically, astronomically, local, nationwide, the U.S. nation, and even worldwide.
It's amazing.
His calendar sticks notes a meteor shower that happened in 1833. It noted a major earthquake that happened here in the Southwest. It noted when the canal started to be built, when the Pacific Railway came through, when McKinley got shot, and even when the Titanic sank. So they were getting information from all over.
So this is a way to record history.
Yes.
This is a way to record history.
And also creating some kind of like their own braille system, because the individual had to fill with these notches and then to understand what these notches meant.
Close up.
And so the keeper or the holder had to have a great sense of memory.
So the person who creates it has to be able to remember everything,
Yes.
and then has to be able to explain it. So it's like a combination, it sounds like, of like oral tradition, a way to record history, like tangible, like where it's literally it's in your hand, and then you can share with others as
Definitely.
well. Yeah. So when somebody passes away and they have this recorded history, do they share it with another person so that way that person can remember and carry it on?
Yeah, mostly, so again, all through oral tradition, but normally the calendar sticks themselves are left with the individual.
Or left with the individual.
So for some reason, some way, somehow, these two calendar sticks were gifted to the anthropologist. And I kind of look at it as a way that for some, again, reason or way, they knew it was going to come out of the community.
Yeah.
100 years later, these both came back.
It's pretty amazing.
Both came back to their homeland, which is Arizona, or the southern part of Arizona. And so it was a huge thing for us because what more first person perspective can you get than from a calendar stick?
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. And then we want to move this way here,
And so we stuck with our Warriors case. Our Warriors case we kept with our modern day veterans. Working with our veterans groups, one of the things they wanted to do was keep them together. Because the Warriors were the protector of the community, the protector of their family, and that's what our modern day veterans are. So we're going from that prehistory even to the historic, to the early historic, with all of our modern.
is this a shield right here?
Yeah, this is the shield, and it's a replication of traditional Pima shield, or Akimel shield and club.
And this is a club. Wow, man, very cool.
And then the same thing with the Peeposh one. Similar but different.
Yeah.
And these two individuals, Antonio Azul and Juan Cheverria, two highly warrior individuals for both the Peeposh and the Outdom community. And so he's the main one who fought for our water rights.
Very cool. Very cool. And then, of course, moving along, more history here, but a little bit more modern.
Yeah, so
modern version of the warriors of the community.
Yeah, so we have we started out with World War One. Matthew B. Wan was one of the community members who served in World War One, and so we kind of wanted to start with him and something that he probably would have wore. This is a picture of Matthew B. Wan, and he was actually killed in battle.
Wow. These are all World War One items. You have the helmet, the rifle, uniform.
Well, it goes from World War One to World War Two.
Oh, this is World War II. Okay.
Yeah, so like a lot of this is World War II, and the most well-known veteran for World War II was Ira Hayes, and well known for help raising the flag at Mount Suribachi in Iwo Jima.
So Ira Hayes, he was what tribe?
He was O'odham. He was after O'odham. He was from the village of Bapechel. On I guess again the most famous photo you see is the one where they're raising the flag. A lot of from the family, he always says it was more of a group effort. And so when looking for photos, we found the one of his whole company. He's actually sitting on the bottom left here.
Yeah, Ira Hayes is like one of the most famous Native Americans, right?
Yes.
In modern history, I guess you can say. And there's going to be a car and bike show at the Ira Hayes Memorial Park this weekend. Looking forward to checking that out. But he is from this community. It's really, really incredible. It's just amazing. Yeah, very incredible.
And then also going into this is also a uniform that was donated as the community members as well.
As a Purple Heart.
So this individual received a Purple Heart. As by Ralph Cameron, also served in World War II. Again, working with the veterans, they wanted to recognize each of the branches of the military, and then going into our more recent veterans and uniform attire, and just kind of showing the difference between what the Warriors was and what they utilized for during battle to early World War I and II, and then to
Vietnam, right here.
Vietnam, Afghanistan, Desert Storm. And also we can't forget the ladies.
I can't forget the ladies, absolutely. Absolutely. Man, just a tremendous amount of history here, obviously, and you guys are really proud of the military service.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then also during that time, we've had the incarceration camps, the Japanese American incarceration camps.
Yeah, what can you tell us about that? Because, you know, it was really interesting. My good friend Nick was telling me about that we had internment camps here for the Japanese during World War II, and they were located on the community,
Yes.
on tribal lands.
Yeah, so the incarceration camps, this one was one of the largest, and it's a place that kind of came up overnight. And it was a place that had a school, a general store, they had a dairy, they had actually had a baseball field with a baseball team. They had koi ponds, and they also had different. They worked in the fields as well for the community, but they also had fields within their own little areas of their barracks. Just as quick as this went up, it went down as soon as the war was over.
Yeah.
And a lot of the barracks were sold to the community for housing, and this shows part of a barrack that was utilized for community housing. And they used just some of the artifacts that were there for during the time that it was occupied. So kind of like I said, it came up overnight, and they had running water and electricity when it was at a time that the community didn't. So it was kind of a light in the dark, because it was just shining from all the electricity there during that time of its occupancy. But it's also something that the community wanted to kind of highlight, because it is part of our history.
Absolutely.
It is a footprint, and it's been erased as soon as they took it down. Like the desert came to take it back.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know if anything was out there unless you really know what you were looking at. But again, it was a time that within the community's history that is rarely mentioned.
So, did anybody who was in the internment camp stay in the area, marry into anybody into the community? Do you know anything about that, or no?
I don't think so. I believe that once the incarcerees were let go, they were given a ticket to go. A lot of them were shipped to Chicago. They weren't allowed to go back to the West Coast. They were shipped more east, Midwest. So they were given tickets, and they were just put on another train and then shipped off.
It's really, the story of the internment camps is really interesting. A lot of them lost their businesses and homes, and pretty much took whatever they could carry with them to these
Right.
internment camps. And I think there was an apology that was given some decades later by, I believe, President Clinton. And I think some of the survivors were given some money. It was like $20,000, not a lot, as compensation for some of their losses. But yeah, I had no idea that there was an internment camp that was out this way.
Yeah, we just finished our lecture series, and the closing of our lecture series, we had a gentleman by the name of Koji Lao Ozawa, who was doing research on the incarceration camps, but also worked with our community's cultural resource department and our tribal historic preservation office. And he did a presentation on what his research was. A lot of it had to do with that. Had a lot of good feedback and comments from the people who came to listen to his presentation.
Yeah.
A lot of interaction and a lot of questions just like that, like, well, what happened to them? Where did
Yeah.
they go? And what happened to their businesses? You know, a lot of them, we had a kid ask, you know, if they had pets, what happened to them? And a lot of them, they literally had to leave what they had.
Yeah.
Again, a sad story.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of our history. We have tried to kind of push away, keep it
Right.
hidden, because it's not a really great story about taking people, especially people who were born here, right, away from their homes, away from their businesses, and then throwing them in which basically is a kind of a prison. Yeah.
Definitely.
Kind of what they did to us.
Yeah, and some of them did interact with tribal members. They were still kind of getting information on that, and like how well did they interact with them, and you know what was the interaction like. But we know they did work in the fields. and then they did help with some growing. Some of the food that they had there and some of the food that they did grow were sent out to the other incarceration camps that they had because their food was, I guess it was nasty. It's a negative design because what normally is black is white.
So does that have any particular kind of meaning?
No, we just call it a negative design.
Okay.
Because it's just
So-
flipped.
So this is again the man in the maze design here. Can you explain kind of what this is supposed to mean?
Depending on who you ask, there's several interpretations of what it is. So I've always been told this is kind of us, our different stages in our life, and we're always going to go through a maze. We're always walking, and there's always something that's going to bring us kind of what they say closer to death as we go towards the center. And so the 4 branches that come out of the maze is your 4 stages of life. So like your childhood, your adolescence, your adulthood, and your elders. And then you somehow come back and reflect on your whole life, and you realize you lived your life. You did really good, and that's when I guess when you're ready, you're ready to go. Again, you'll hear many interpretations.
Does it also symbolize
lines.
like the twists and turns of life as well? How life can be
Yeah, you're never walking in a
chaotic.
straight line.
Never walking in a straight line. Like life can take you here, and maybe you make a wrong move,
Yes.
and you gotta
Somehow find your
double
way
back.
back. Yeah,
Find your way back.
definitely.
Yeah.
Everything always has an interpretation and a moral, I should say. Weaving, especially, you become a master weaver by remembering where the stitches are and what you do. But also in anything that we do, you put your heart into, you put your feeling into, and it shows. And it shows in the work that you do.
Yeah.
My grandmother always told me, if you rush, you're gonna tell. If you're mad, you're gonna tell. If you're sad, you're gonna tell within your work, whatever it is that you do, whether it's painting, pottery, or basketry.
So the energy that you put out when you're doing something like this is going to show
Yeah.
in what you produce.
Definitely. And so for us, anything that we have in here is still alive. It's the energy that the person put into it to make it.
Yeah, and you can feel there's a lot of history, obviously, but a lot of good energy in here. Energy of like hundreds of years of culture and
Definitely.
history, and it's pretty amazing. The items that you have here are just really absolutely incredible, from some of the more contemporary to obviously the ancient. Yeah, but I've seen the Man in the Maze. Is this more for men? What's the gender component to it?
It's more universal, I should say.
Okay.
It's not specific.
So the
And
man in
there's-
the maze could be just anybody, just the people.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
And we've seen it in some prehistoric structures, because there's a man in the maze that's inside the Casa Grande Ruins National Monument. But we've also seen this design on Greek coins.
That's amazing. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. I saw a petroglyph of that design, an etching on a rock. So obviously it's
Right.
it's an ancient design. It's mesmerizing to me every time I see it. It just catches my attention, and I know it's on the flag of one of the sister tribes, right?
Yes. Salt rivers.
Yeah, Salt River. Is it Salt River Pima?
Yeah.
Salt River Pima, yeah. Yeah, no, it's an absolutely beautiful design. I love the basketry. Just, you can tell this is just like expertise right here on display. Obviously, some of the greatest basket weavers in the world come from right here in this community. Yeah. And like you were saying, some of the baskets that are made today are more decorative. The older baskets were really large for
Yeah.
storing food and storing items, collecting food when you're doing your agriculture. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. So we have like this one's more of artistic. This is like a cup.
Yeah.
Whereas some of like the bigger baskets, there were probably utilitarian. We have 2 baskets over there that were utilized for
Can we take a look?
gathering wine, or what we call wine baskets.
Oh, really? Can you tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about that?
So the saguaro produces a fruit every summer, and so this is a depiction of of the women gathering the fruit, which is a red bulb fruit, kind of looks like the prickly pear, but they would gather these and then put them into the baskets. They would utilize these and they would make jams, syrups, and even wine. These 2 baskets are wine baskets, and you can tell they're stained. You can tell they're different color than what those look like,
Yeah.
even the older ones. It's just more of a darker color because it was constantly used, filled, and drained from either the jams or the syrups, and then also to make the wine.
So was the wine, was it fermented did it have an alcohol content?
It produced its own. It was fermented. It was fermented. It was left for a couple of days, and it was utilized for ceremony. More of a ceremony use only, and it wasn't to get intoxicated.
Yeah.
It was just to utilize to make what we call to bring down the clouds. And so, like I said, being utilitarian, they were utilized in that sense and for that only. And it's an interpretation of all the Huhugam or prehistoric ball courts within the southwest of Arizona and even into Mesoamerica. And what they think they utilize these ball courts for, we utilize this ball court in the same sense. We have different events in it. We've had cultural dances. We've had speakers and different things going on in our ball court. And so we think that's what they were utilizing those back then.
So it wasn't just to play a game. It was probably more
Multi-use.
multi-use.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you know the game, how it was played? Is that something that's truly understood, or has that been lost in history?
There's probably variations in what the game was, and if they even played a game in there. Like more down in Mesoamerica, they had the game where the rings were on the side of the ball court.
Right.
Kind of like the Aztecs and the Mayans, whereas ours weren't like that. They were more of just a slope. So it gave a sense as if people were sitting around the edge, and then whatever they were doing in the middle, where everybody could be able to see what was going on. I don't believe in any of the archaeological wall courts that were
We're getting some great rain right now. This
that
is
were
really
excavated,
incredible.
had them, where they found any kind of game pieces in them.
Yeah. But you guys did have rubber. You guys utilize rubber?
Yeah, so some of the plants they did put use rubber around balls, whether it was a wooden ball or a stone ball. There was a gum sap that they used.
Now this is typical Arizona weather, right?
I wish.
or is it usually rain like this?
No, well, yeah. When it rains very hard or very soft. So during our spring, summer season, it's like this. During our winter is what they call a woman's rain. It's really gentle, soft, but it rains a lot. We've had a couple of good rains in the past couple of months, and so maybe this is the start of a good wet monsoon season.
Okay.
It didn't say it was going to rain today. It said it was going to be cloudy.
Yeah,
But rain is also good for the desert.
Definitely good for the desert. Absolutely.
And there's one thing that we all, especially living in the desert, is we strive for the rain.
Yep. Yeah, this is pretty incredible. I know when we first pulled up here, it looked like it was going to clear up, and obviously it's not.
Right.
It's not. Wow. So Snaketown, does it have a ball court?
Yeah, Snaketown they have a couple of ball courts, and one of the biggest ball courts is there. which is, I want to say, is about the size of a football field.
Very nice. So what would be the one thing that you would want people to know about the community here?
Well, for myself, well, we try to educate our, even the community and non-community members, is that we're a really resilient people. We have a deep root to the past, and it's helping us go to the future. And to always remember where we came from, and to know where we're going, will help future generations. Even though our past is a little heartbreaking in some parts, we've evolved, we've pursued, we've stayed, and we've grown. And the community is still going, and it's prospering from its past and its present, and making that pathway for all future generations. And like any community, you're stressed to survive.
So every community obviously has its ups and downs, has its challenges. Are there any struggles out here that exist in the community that might be a little different than what other communities are dealing with?
I don't want to say they're different. I want to say it's more of along the same lines, and that's progressing, going into a modern world, from what we've lived, and I guess I could say for myself, my generation, living into the age of technology.
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of that sit down and talk, communication and fellowshipping with our elders, with our neighbors. Uh, just that sense of community. I want to say that there's a lot of places that have it still within the community, but again, technology is kind of pushing us to be on our own, be more of solo, but I think that's a struggle in just about any face in any community.
I agree. I think that individualism is a big part of the dominant culture, and then with technology, we can kind of just be in our own little world.
Right.
And with native indigenous communities, the community was such an important part of the culture, getting together, sharing stories, sharing the ceremonies and the rituals as well. And it's harder probably, I guess, for all communities really to do that, especially when everything is so fast-paced now, and we can kind of get caught up in the internet or whatever it is that's going on in our lives. Would you agree with that?
Yes, we all live by a clock now and a calendar, whereas way back when it was by season. But we're learning to adapt. We're learning to try to fit what we've kind of lost back into our lives. And so there's still those individuals that try to maintain and hold on to it. And I think that's us as a cultural center, we try to strive that back into the community. That this is the things that we used to do. This is the things that we can still do. You know, we don't want to talk about us as we're a past, because we are a present.
So what's the best part of your culture that you enjoy most, that you love most, or what do you like most about being from this area?
Really just being Anthem, and any individual with the community, whether they're Peaposh or Anthem, it's being who we are and where we're from. Like I said, we're deeply rooted, and is the best part of being a community. Being, I don't want to say recognized, because we are a humble people, but just being us and adapting and being able to adjust to change, whether it comes softly or really hard. But in all sense, we could all work together, and that's, you know, the one thing is being us. The center was established first with it was actually an agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation when they were doing the Central Arizona project. They needed a place to store all of the items that were being dug up during that build. So the community went into an agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation to build a place, and so the center was established through that. We do have a repository, which a lot of the Central Arizona projects objects are being housed, as well as other places, but now more of what the community brings in. And so, in the interpretation, I believe the community it was constructed in 2003. It opened in 2004. So the community had a lot of input on what the design is and the architecture, and everything has an interpretation to it. From its stair stepping of the buildings to kind of follow the stair stepping of the mountains, the color of the building, which is like the color of our pottery. Our berm here kind of works as two different things. One is the sound barrier to the highway on the other side, and then the stair stepping that you see on this side is an interpretation of our terrace farming. The weaving that you see on our rafters outside is kind of like our weaving that you saw on the mat in there. And then our outdoor kitchen here, the beams are kind of an interpretation of the beams that were used in the building of the Casa Grande Ruins National Monument at the time that it was constructed, and also the thickness of those brown walls out there is the thickness of what those walls were too.
So everything has some meaning, cultural significance. Yes. It wasn't just like, hey, we're going to build a cultural center and bring items in. I mean, everything you can and you can see that. You feel that when you walk in here and just kind of seeing the layout. You can tell everything has a meaning behind it. Yeah, it's really
definitely
beautiful.
So we do have a tattooing kit, which was collected in 1902, and what it is so in the paper is actually charcoal, and these are prickly pear spines, and there's I want to say there's 3 of them, and it's actually wrapped at the edge with cotton. And so, from my understanding of how they did traditional tattooing was that they put a little bit of water with the charcoal, and then they dipped the needles in, and then they would just peck at you. Kind of something similar to as the Samoans do, the Hawaiians, Asians as well. But again, you'd have to be really still. I'd always remember asking my grandmother about her tattoos. She just said it hurt, but you'd have to be laid really, really still. You couldn't move. But this is a technique that isn't used anymore. Using the spines of the cactus.
When your grandmother had it done, did she have the traditional? Was it done traditionally?
Yeah. So she had a cross on her forehead, but she also had dots on the sides and a line down her chin.
Okay. And that's just for the dots on the sides here are by the eyes or for the women?
Yeah. She never really went into detail of exactly what they've been and why she got them. Just briefly discussed like what the method was. Are
people in the community trying to resurrect this tradition, doing it more modern with more modern style tattooing? I believe
so. I've seen some, but again, just that history or that knowledge is kind of vague, and so it's even though it's being brought back, it still has that inkling of that tie to the past.
Yeah. So with the cultural center here, is this all tribally driven, or do you guys work with a university or an anthropologist?
So when we were started to establish what the museum was going to look like, we went to the community and asked them what they wanted. We pushed away from the archaeological and anthropological view. We wanted the community to tell their story. We wanted them to be the voice of their history. So in a lot of our graphic panels, you'll see first-person quotes. So we wanted to be kind of a first-person perspective, letting the community tell the visitors who they are as a people and what they went through and what they did. And so it was really community-based. And that's one thing I like when people come to the center or when we have events. I'm like, be proud of it because this is what you made. I being the exhibit projects manager was going back and forth with the community. With every change that we did within the gallery, okay, this is what's changing and this is what we're going to put. Do you guys agree? Do you guys not agree? We always wanted their input. We wanted them to have a say-so in everything that we did and established for the museum. And again, because we wanted it to be their own.
Yeah, and that really comes through. You see the quotes from members in the community. So their family members can come in and they can read a little bit about what their family member had to say about something that they remember or something that was important with the culture. It's really beautiful. And you were saying that you saw this come to fruition literally from like sticky notes, taking notes all the way to then eventually seeing it literally right here.
Definitely, all the way from ideas on sticky notes that were on the wall to all the meetings that we had to fabrication of the casework, the selection of the objects, the graphics, the wording, the photographs that went into the exhibit, the layout of the exhibit itself, the architecture and design for all of it to come to life. And everything has its ups and downs through the process, but you know, you can't really make everybody happy, but you come to a consensus with everybody. And so, and I believe we as the Heritage Center did that with the community. We came to a consensus. And we portrayed them as best as we could through their voice.
Yeah, it's hard to please everybody, but there's so many elements here that share so much of the story of the community going all the way back from, you know, the ancient to the present. It's pretty dynamic. It's pretty cool. Definitely a great accomplishment from the community, and also the fact that that you're willing to share with others, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But also to collaborate with institutions like the Smithsonian, Yale Peabody Museum, Pueblo Grande, the community itself, getting objects to be loaned to us to have on display.
So what's it like working with the Smithsonian? Are they pretty good? Can they be a pain? How are they?
They're pretty good. They're really, I've learned a lot from them. They learned a lot from us as well. We always get a lot of compliments from their people when they come out to the center and see what we have, and especially how we care for our objects, both through a museum standard and a cultural perspective of the community. And so we're always having conversations of how best to display something or to care for it, to house it. And so it's a good partnership. It's a good collaboration and good guidance on both ends as well from all the institutions that we work with.
Beautiful.